Hey everybody, as you may be aware, I had a Tutoro automatic chain oiler on my last bike and I wanted another one to put on my new bike, so I spoke to Tutoro and got them to send me one. They've sent me the Pro Kit and I'm going to show you basically what you get in the kit. You don't always get all of these bits, it depends what you need. This is the Pro Kit, so you get everything. And then I'm going to have some challenges to fit it to my bike, but I think it can be done because it's so adaptive. So you've got the automatic oiler itself. Now the way these work is you put oil in them, and then there's this weight, and this is on the bike like this, and you have it adjusted with a flow control, and when you go over a bump, this jumps up and down and lets a little bit of oil out, and then that slowly doses through a tube which connects on here, down your swing arm, and onto your sprocket and chain. So what you get in the Pro Kit is the actual oiler unit itself. We've got this bracket, can't see. Long bracket. What else we got? This is the standard mounting kit. So you've got this flat plate, and it's all attached with tie wraps pretty much. And you think, tie wraps, is that enough? Yeah, it is. Even off-roading, it stayed on fine. So this is your basic mounting kit. So you've got the plate that goes against the bike, this little arm, screws, and there's a little instruction booklet with each part to explain how you use it. And then we've got some self-adhesive tube sort of clips, so you can keep the tube nice and neat and tidy. There is a magnet. This is a brilliant idea because when you bleed it, you need that to be open. So you fit it all to the bike, fill this with oil, put the magnet on the top, and that lifts up the weight, and then the oil can come out and get to the end of the nozzle, and then you can do your adjustments. It means you don't have to try and keep that up with your fingers. Brilliant idea, since the last one I didn't have one of those. And then this is the twin nozzle kit. So you can either have a single nozzle just going onto the chain, or you can have this which sits either side of your sprocket and puts the oil directly onto the sprocket that then gets onto the chain. Again, instruction booklet with that, self-adhesive bits, this little plate, everything you need to it. Tubing, they give you loads of tubing. This is one of the straight nozzles, and then it's got this flex in the it's flexible metal that you can leave in the tube and you can bend it to make it fit properly. And the other thing they give you with the kit is a bottle of Tutoro motorcycle chain oil and one of these little bottles which I've filled up using this. These don't actually use a massive amount of oil. This will last a long time, because rather than absolutely dosing the chain up, you know, so it's completely covered and leaving it for a few weeks, like you do when you use spray cans and it's all sticky and horrible, this is just a little bit at a time and just keeps the chain nicely lubed. So I think they're brilliant. I had one on my last bike for a couple of years. Love the thing. So now I'm going to have to spend a bit of time working out how I'm going to fit this on my bike, because I ride now if you're not one of my regular viewers, you may not be aware that I ride a Suzuki DRZ400SM. And the problem I have, I want to use the dual nozzle, but that might be tricky for the fact that I have a chain guard which covers that part of the actual sprocket, and I've got a chain guard above which might get in the way this way, so I've got to work out how I'm going to get around that problem. And the other problem is I need to mount it on the bike frame. You mustn't put it on the swing arm, because if you put it on the swing arm it juts around a lot and that causes it to just dose loads of oil out, and you don't want to do that. It needs to be on the bike frame itself above suspension, if you know what I mean. It might just fit in here, but I've got to make sure, because of the long travel of the suspension, that it doesn't get caught by either this chain guard or it hitting up, well, the swing arm coming up and hitting it, because I might consider putting it up here, which is going to make it a little tricky to refill it, but it shouldn't be too bad. But I just need to make sure that it's out of line with the rear wheel, because the rear wheel on this bike goes right up in there, and as you can see from the inside of my exhaust, clearance can be an issue. As you can see, this is just the instructions for the mount itself. You probably won't need these, it's pretty self-explanatory. The first time I fitted it, I just, worked it out myself. But there is a lot of information there with diagrams of how you would do things and how you can change things. Because it's a bit like Meccano with all these little pieces. You can just pick and choose the bits that are going to fit best for you. And so I might very well end up using that one, I'll have to see. Oh, and they do supply an Allen key as well for the hardware, so you can put it together without having to find your tools. You are going to need a spanner though, These are nylock nuts, which is good. So there's the basic bracket, and you could just attach that straight to the bike like that, if that's good enough for you. But if you need to turn it, then you supply this L bracket. As I say, mine's a little bit tricky because of the type of bike I have. On different types of bikes it can be a lot easier. You might even have different unique problems, but it's so like interchangeable and universal. I'm pretty damn sure I'm going to make this fit. I've just got to work out how, which is a bit fun. But I might end up using that one. I don't know. We'll work it out. Okay, I've tried some different configurations. I'd imagine this needs to be higher than the point that it's dosing the oil to, because obviously it's gravity fed. There seems to fit quite well, apart from the fact that it is right next to my pillion peg, and I do take a pillion, so that's not going to be an option. So I'm going to have to take this panel off and see where we can fit it up inside here. Being hidden would be quite cool anyway, so let's try that. Okay, it took some fiddling, but I found a way to make it fit. As you can see, what I've done is I've put this long bracket in between the pillion peg and the frame, and then I've put a washer of the same thickness between the pillion peg and the frame to keep that level still. And then I've hidden it up in here. Now when the panel goes on, roughly there, I can still get to the adjustment screw. The reason I've had to hide it as far up as possible is because now this is in line with this cutout here. So if my swing arm does come right up, which it probably won't get this high anyway, if it goes right up there, it's got all this extra space here for it to sit into, so it's not going to get hit. But yeah, I can refill it from this side, and as you only do it every now and then, it's not something you do all the time. I don't mind it being a little bit fiddly. It's probably going to take me no extra time than, you know, spraying the chain anyway, so yeah, so I'm happy with that. And you can see it from the rear, so I can still see how much oil's left in it. It's a little bit off of vertical, but it should be fine, I would imagine. Obviously, that's the first thing you've got to work out, where you're going to fit that. I think on a lot of other bikes this would be a lot easier. And then I've got to work out how I'm going to run the hose. Okay, so I wanted to use the double feed nozzle, which fits, it should fit under here, either side of the sprocket, and it needs to be about here, because obviously you want it to be dragging, not going against the movement, so it would be dragging as this is turning in a counterclockwise rotation. Well, unfortunately, that lot is in the way, and I can't do without it. There's no way of getting this in between in just the right spot. It's just not feasible, unfortunately. So what I've done is I've actually done the method I used when I first did it, because my other bike is also a supermoto, and I had very similar problems. I now remember. So I've used the same solution, and this is actually a very simple way of doing it. So the tube comes from here, goes down the back of this piece of metal, and then the nozzle is just there. Now there's a bit more distance between the chain and the nozzle as there would be when it's on the ground because it's on a paddock stand, but basically it's just going to drip onto the chain itself. Because it's constantly getting a little bit every now and then, it's just going to feed over the entire length of the chain, and oil spreads, so it should be fine. This is probably not a way that they would suggest doing it, but this is the way I did it before, and I didn't have any problems with it. The only downside is if there's too much oil coming out, it can fling some into your front sprocket casing, and then you can have some drip out the bottom. So don't panic if you get your feed level wrong, and you end up filling this with oil and having oil dripping out the bottom and thinking, oh, I've got an oil leak! Although you can tell it isn't, because the oil from this is green. So as you can see, I can pop it off from the other side. The panel just comes down around here, so this isn't like a big deal. Out the back. Then I've filled up the little travel bottle they give you, which would actually make this a lot easier because I can tip around corners, though I've filled it up to the brim, so that might not make it quite so easy. As you can see, this is green. It looks black, but it's actually green. No, that's easy. That's fine. Look at that. No worries. There is a fill line indicator, which is basically, it's got to be below the weight. Cap goes back in, and it goes on. As you can see, I'm doing this all from the other side, like if the panel's on. Now I'm going to open the flow control right up. You never have it open that much normally. Then place the magnet on the top. There we go. Sorry, I've got very little light available to me here, so this might be a bit grainy. But as you can see, the oil is now slowly flowing down. and when it comes out the bottom, that's when you take the weight off, and then you're going to have a bit of a play to find your adjustment with this that works perfectly for you. Just go up a little tiny bit at a time, because on my last bike I think it was only 1.5 turns out. When I first put one of these on my bike, I had a lot of people saying, oh, I don't like automatic chain oilers because they cover your chain in oil and you end up getting it covered in grime and crap and etc, etc. I have found it to be no worse, if not better than using the sticky non-throw sprays, because the one I use, which is a rock oil spray, is sticky like glue. It does get the chain absolutely coated in crap, and also it flings it all over the wheel and it sticks to my wheel like you wouldn't believe. From my memory, this isn't quite as sticky. It's very, very viscous, so it will stay on the chain, but if it does throw off, it's not going to turn into that glue that is a right pain to get off. But if you get the dosing at the right level, you're not going to see it anyway. It's just going to be nicely oiled without having too much going on there. As I say, mine's going to be dosing onto the chain rubber, so it's going to be kept on top of there, and then that should spread it both sides of the chain, and that should get it through everything. As I say, oil spreads. It just gets everywhere when it has a chance. Oh, where's it going to land? Slap bang in the middle of the chain, I hope. Yep. Okay, so take the magnet off, and then I've screwed this back in fully, and then, so at this point in time, the weight's holding the oil in here. It's only going to start dosing once the bike goes up and down and that jet starts jumping. 3/4 of a turn, and see if that's... No, actually, still I'm going to go for a half turn and see if that's enough. Basically, ride it for a bit, and if you notice your chain's getting overly oiled, then reduce it. In the dual nozzle kit, as I say, you get this plate, and you get this threaded that plastic stuff, I can't remember what it is, and the nuts and things, and that's so you can adjust where the nozzle is to get it just in the right place. The instructions are all there. It comes with self-adhesive bits, everything you need. Not a split pin. I really, really like the Tutoro oilers, and I wouldn't have asked for one had I not wanted one. So, you know, it says it all. Had one for 2 years and then I want another one. Something to keep in mind, of all this kit that you use to fit it, none of it's damaged, it's all reusable because it's like Meccano. The only bits that you actually modify in a way that can't be changed is the plastic tubing, which is easy to get, tie wraps, which are obviously tie wraps, and these self-adhesive little tube clips. Beyond that, it's just nuts and bolts, so you can take it off of one bike and put it onto a new bike if you change your bike. Why have I not moved the one off my old bike onto the new bike instead of getting another kit? Because I'm giving the other one to a friend to put on their bike, because it will be good for them, because they're a little forgetful when it comes to oiling their chain, so it saves them any bother. So this is definitely a good present for someone who forgets to oil their chain, because it's going to cost them a fortune in the end in worn out, knackered, rusty chains, and possibly even snap chains if you don't oil them for long enough, and you know the damage that can do to both the bike and you. So there we go, I don't need to worry about oiling my chain anymore. It'll just do it itself. I just have to make sure that I top it up. And as I say, once that covers on the side of the bike's back on, all I've got to do to check it is look from the back, which you can't really see because it's really dark, but there you go. Oh, also, unlike some of the other automatic chain oilers out there, you don't need a vacuum line. With some of the other ones, you have to run a vacuum line off the bike to power the unit. Not needed. This will do it itself. Simple. Little weight up and down, adjusty screw, drippy drippy, oily chain. Boom boom. Proper job. Catch you next time. I recently released the Yes It's Legal filtering or lane splitting t-shirt and hoodie to help bring awareness of the fact that it is legal here in the UK, even if a lot of drivers don't think it is. Well, sadly, there are lots of places where it isn't legal. In the United States, it's only legal in